Hello, my name is Peter Parf and welcome to the new Brit workshop. There was an old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Well, these are really interesting times because I've just taken delivery of the final prototype, the pre-production model if you like, of the brand new Parf Guide System. It's the Parf Guide System Mark II. Now this will be sold alongside the existing Parf Guide System, but it's quite different. But the principle of the Pythagorean 3, 4, 5 or 6, 8, 10 triangles is exactly the same. And when we come to use it, it will be used in a similar fashion, but almost every component on the Mark II system is different from the original. I've got them laid out here. I want to show you what those differences are. First of all, let's look at the Parf stick. Here's an original Parf stick with 11 3mm holes at 96mm centres. Now the new Parf stick has a different size of hole. These are 6mm in diameter. And if you notice, there are some extra holes, and above them is written either 32 or 48. Those are so that you can do some offset holes, and we'll see how that's done later. Next, let's look at the 20mm block. The new one, and this, as I said, is the final pre-production model, and this time these 3mm holes near the surface have been enlarged to 6mm to a depth of about 3 or 4mm. Now I said that two of the components are virtually identical, and that is the 20mm boring bits. The other common item are these locator dogs, and they're absolutely identical to the original system. And before, the 3mm drill guide was a simple block of steel with a 3mm hole in it. Now those 6mm holes in the rulers are there to accept the new 3mm drilling guide, and this is very, very special. And there are two of them. They each have a little projection at the bottom here made of hardened steel, which is 6mm in diameter, and that has an exact 3mm hole in the bottom, and that fits into the ruler. The second one of these has a slightly deeper protrusion here, and that is sufficient to go through two rulers should you be required to drill at the place where two rulers intersect. At the top end here is an oiled bearing, and that is there to take the new 3mm drill holder. Now we also have an aperture here which is designed for the waste when you're doing 3mm drilling to be able to find an exit route. The idea is this will sit down onto the Parf stick and fit exactly into one of those 6mm holes, and then you're ready to do the drilling. Now we do have a new way of holding the 3mm drill, and this is the 3mm drill holder, and it's characterized by having a section here which fits down into that oiled bearing, and there is a retaining grub screw at the top, and at this end we have a hex shank which is also Centratec compatible. And I've now introduced it into the drill guide, and you can now see that the drill is being supported here at the top on that oil bearing and at the bottom. And this means that there's going to be no wear on the Parf sticks when you're doing 3mm drilling. Now because we've got these 6mm holes through the Parf sticks, the pins which have the 3mm end also need to have a 6mm shoulder so that they can go through the Parf stick and register the Parf stick in place by virtue of that 6mm shoulder. Now if one needs to bring two Parf sticks together in order to complete a drilling operation, then there are two ways of doing it. First of all, if supposing we had our bench top underneath here and we needed to make a hole, then you use the second 3mm drill guide, and that goes through not just the one but both of the Parf sticks, and that then is registering them both in the correct place. As you can see, I'm trying to move this and I can't because that's in situ. But there are times when one doesn't need to drill, particularly if you're doing an MFT style top. And provided in the kit is this little joining piece. And it's got a screw thread, it's got a 6mm section on here, which I'll drop down into there. So that's gone through the two Parf sticks, and I can then screw this piece up from underneath. And that's now keeping those two Parf sticks absolutely registered together. Now the principle of using the system is exactly the same as with the original kit. And I'm going to start by laying out the first set of holes at the top end of my new MFT3 top. Now I've marked the position for my very first hole. I've worked out where I want it to be. And I've got crosshairs there, and I can see that down through the hole which has got a 0 next to it, 0 there. And these holes at 96 spacings go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So I've got two clamps there, that's holding that Parf stick in place. I can now fit my 3mm drill in its holder into my drill. And now my 3mm drill guide, the one with the shallower little protrusion here, designed to go with one Parf stick, that fits down nice and snugly. And I now introduce my drill, and I can drill my first hole. And I use a pecking scheme here, and basically what that does, that ensures that the waste material comes back up through from the hole. So there's my first hole, and I'm now going to put a pin in there. That's helping to keep that registration of the Parf stick. So I'm now going up to hole number 10. Don't start using any of these additional holes. This one's got 32 and 48 next to it. Hole number 10. And that goes in. And just as before, it's this pecking motion. And there's that second hole, and that's that pin in there, so that's really good. And I'm now able to remove the clamps as the Parf stick now is held in place by those two pins. And I can now complete the drilling operation, and we're just going to use the system just as before. First of all, make sure that's located, and then down we go, and we use a pecking motion. And it's good to check that you've got no detritus underneath here before you put it down onto the Parf stick, just to make sure it's sitting flat. And this is the last one now. So that's my first row of holes complete. And the next stage is to remove this one end pin up here, and we're going to now swing this Parf stick round, and we're going to do the first bit of the Pythagoras theory. Remember, these holes are numbered. This is hole 0, and it goes 1, 2, 3, etc. And we need to make a 6, 8, 10 triangle. 6 along here, 8 along there, and 10 along the diagonal. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to put a pin through this Parf stick, hole 0, and we make sure that's properly located with that shoulder on the pin through the hole. And we now want hole number 10 along here to line up with hole number 8 along there. And because this is going into fresh air, we're going to join these two Parf sticks together using this gadget. And there's the part that's going to drop through both of those. And you have to make sure it's properly located. There it is, properly located, and then we can screw it up from underneath. Now if our bench top was all the way over here, so at this point we wanted to drill a hole, then we would use the second 3mm drill guide, which has got the longer protrusion here, which allows it to go through two of the Parf sticks, and then once that's in place we could then drill at that point. But because this is just a simple top, we've now got this held in place. Now in the old days I used to say at this stage you must clamp the Parf stick that you're about to be drilling through, but this is absolutely as rock solid as you can imagine. There is no movement in this direction at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the first one here, and I'm going to put my third pin in just there. And it goes in absolutely perfectly. So I'm now going to drill the remaining holes here. Notice how the waste comes out now through this drill guide because of the hole that goes all the way through it there. Now I'm now doing the other column at the far end here. I've put that pin in and it's firmly in place. And I want you to look carefully here as I put this one in place. Now what you mustn't do is to kid yourself that you've got the Parf stick held nicely in place just because you pushed down on the pin. Do check that it's seated properly, and this one's not. And I found that one needs to work out a method which is best for you of getting this right. And what I've done is I've allowed the pin to go down so far, and then I've raised the Parf stick up until it engages with that wider part of the pin, and then I can push the two down together, and now that is properly seated. I'm now going to go up here and use my gadget again to link position 8 with position 10. And this is the only caution I would say about this new technique, is that you really must make sure that the pins and this gadget and indeed also the guides for the two guides for the 3mm drill are always properly located in one of the 6mm holes. That must always be checked, and you must always satisfy yourself that that's the case. Right, so just as before, I'm going to go down here and drill these holes. I've got my column of holes there, so I can now position the Parf stick in each of these places down here to drill the remaining holes. Now when you're setting up these Parf sticks to do these horizontal cuts, in fact when you're setting up Parf sticks full stop, I find it easier to get the pin pushed in so its shoulder is in the 6mm hole on the Parf stick, and then pushed down, and that's now properly in place. Now at this end, if you had the Parf stick flat like this and then tried to get all of this lined up, it's very fiddly. Trust me, use this method. Locate the pin through the Parf stick and then feel to get that hole, and when you've got the tip in the hole, then push upwards with your finger here to keep the Parf stick engaged with the pin, then push downwards like so. That's now perfectly in place. And when you position the 3mm drill guide, always make sure that it is properly seated, absolutely properly in before you start drilling. And don't try and position it by having the drill already in there, because that will give you a false impression of it being seated properly. Get it seated, then put the drill in. So we've finished drilling all of the 3mm holes, and now we move on to the 20mm holes. And the process for that is exactly the same as it was with the original Parf Guide system. Now at this stage, what I want to do is to break off from the flow, as it were, but put it into a separate video. I do want to show you how to do offset holes. It's very important, so please do look for the video which I've posted showing how to do offset holes with the Parf Guide system.